Have you ever wondered who invented alcohol? Who was the first person to look at a pile of old fruit, watch it rot, and think, I should drink that? It sounds absurd, but alcohol has been with us for thousands of years, long before writing, money, or even the wheel. From ancient farmers who accidentally brewed it, to kings, monks, and scientists who refined it, the story of alcohol is one of accidents, innovation, and survival. So today, we're exploring a surprisingly ancient question: who invented alcohol? The answer takes us through prehistoric caves, Egyptian breweries, Chinese tombs, and medieval monasteries. Long before humans learned to brew anything, nature was already making alcohol. When ripe fruit falls and sits in the sun, natural yeast feeds on the sugars, creating ethanol, the same alcohol we drink today. Animals like fruit bats, elephants, and monkeys have all been seen enjoying naturally fermented fruit. And humans? We likely discovered it the same way, by accident. Archaeologists believe early hunter-gatherers, at least 9,000 years ago, came across fermented fruit or honey that had turned slightly alcoholic. The warmth, giddiness, and relaxation they felt must have been unforgettable. That accidental encounter began humanity's long, intoxicating relationship with alcohol. The first deliberate brewing began with the rise of agriculture. When humans learned to grow grains like barley and millet, they had everything they needed for an alcoholic revolution. At Jiahou in China, around 7000 BCE, scientists found pottery with traces of a fermented drink made from rice, honey, and fruit, the earliest known evidence of intentional brewing. Meanwhile, in Mesopotamia, by about 4000 to 3000 BCE, the Sumerians were brewing a thick, porridge-like beer called kvass. They even drank it through straws to avoid the floating grain bits. Beer wasn't just a drink, it was food, medicine, and even currency. Workers building Sumerian temples were often paid in daily rations of beer. So while we can't name a single inventor, ancient China and Mesopotamia gave us the first real evidence of deliberate fermentation. As civilizations grew along the Nile, Egyptians perfected beer making. Archaeologists have found large-scale breweries dating to around 3500 BCE, some capable of producing thousands of liters a day. Beer became a staple of Egyptian life, consumed by workers, priests, and even pharaohs. But another drink soon rose to prominence: wine. The earliest wines come from the Caucasus region, modern Georgia and Armenia, dating to around 6000 BCE. Egyptians later adopted winemaking, sealing clay jars with beeswax to preserve the liquid for royal banquets and tomb offerings. Tomb inscriptions showed jars of red wine placed beside pharaohs, so they could sip their favorite drink in the afterlife. Centuries later, humans began seeking something stronger. Entered distillation, the process of heating a fermented liquid to separate alcohol from water. The earliest distillation tools appeared in ancient Egypt and China, possibly as early as 200 CE, although they were used mainly for perfumes and medicines. It wasn't until the 8th and 9th centuries that Arab chemists like Jabir ibn Hayyan and al-Kindi refined the process to produce purified alcohol, which they called alcohol. That's where the English word alcohol comes from. By the Middle Ages, European monks and scholars adopted distillation to make aqua vitae, Latin for water of life. This was the birth of spirits, brandy, whiskey, and vodka. Again, no single inventor, just a chain of discoveries passed from east to west. Across cultures, alcohol became deeply woven into spiritual and social life. The Sumerians offered beer to their goddess Ninkasi, patron of brewing. In Egypt, beer and wine played roles in both daily life and burial rituals. In Christianity, wine became sacred, the symbol of Christ's blood. In Islamic culture, alcohol consumption was forbidden, yet Muslim scholars advanced distillation for medicine and chemistry. In medieval Europe, alcohol was often safer to drink than water, at least in some areas, because boiling and fermentation killed bacteria. Monks brewed beer and distilled brandy not only for sustenance, but also to support their monasteries financially. From divine offerings to daily sustenance, alcohol had become a foundation of civilization. By the 15th and 16th centuries, alcohol had conquered the world. European explorers carried barrels of rum, brandy, or beer on voyages, not for fun, but to purify water and prevent disease like scurvy. Colonial trade spread local spirits worldwide. Rum from the Caribbean, whiskey from Scotland and Ireland, sake from Japan, tequila from Mexico. Each drink carried its own story, shaped by culture and climate. With the Industrial Revolution in the 18th–19th centuries, large-scale brewing and distilling transformed alcohol into both an industry and a cultural symbol, from the British pub to the Japanese izakaya. Today, alcohol is everywhere, from craft breweries to synthetic alcohol labs. Scientists are experimenting with hangover-free alternatives designed to mimic ethanol's effects without harming the liver or brain. Meanwhile, younger generations are drinking less, prioritizing health and mindfulness. But one thing hasn't changed: our fascination with this ancient chemical companion. What began as a natural accident became one of humanity's most enduring creations. So, who invented alcohol? The truth is, no single person did. It was discovered, forgotten, and rediscovered countless times. From overripe fruit under a tree to modern biotechnology labs, the story of alcohol is the story of human curiosity. It reminds us that some of history's greatest inventions weren't planned, they were found. If you enjoyed this story, raise your glass of water, wine, or whatever you like, and subscribe to Simple Things, Surprising Histories, where we uncover the stories hidden in everyday life. Cheers to curiosity.